Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We're presented by CLNS Media. Today on the show, we've got good friend of the program, Dieter Kurtenbach, back from the San Jose Mercury News to chat about NBA over-unders for the Eastern Conference. Dieter, you and I just finished up recording the first half of this podcast. How are you doing on your end?
Oh, I'm super sad. Getting all the sads talking about this Eastern Conference, but there are a couple teams here in the second half of this pod that get me a little bit excited. I see some optimism here at the end, but oh my, LeBron James was really holding this whole thing up, wasn't he?
I'm like reading through some of this Ohio State.
Don't depress me further. Don't depress me further.
So Alan Kenny from Blatant Homerism.
Because I mean this, yeah, okay.
So like, it was found that Urban Meyer periodically loses his memory, like from taking medication or something, and he goes, as attested to by Dr. Leo Spaceman, MD.
Listen, you know I stand for Dr. Leo, Dr. Spaceman.
Oh my god!
By far my favorite 30 Rock character.
It is,
like, far and away.
Just
a whole
amazing.
Different pod.
Just absolutely amazing. All right, let's jump into this. We got Miami, Milwaukee, New York, Orlando, Philadelphia, Toronto, and Washington. Again, I'm going to give a little rundown on each of these teams at the top as we go into it. We're picking NBA over unders here again. I mean, do we have anything else we want to talk about at the top here, or do we just want to dive right in?
No, we need all the help we can get here, so let's just make this happen.
The Miami Heat, their over-under number is 41.5. They won 44 games last season. Their expected win-loss was 42-40. 22nd in offensive rating, 7th in defensive rating. So from last season's team, they lose potentially Dwayne Wade. We don't really have an indication. That might be one thing that we know by the time this podcast comes out, but you know, as of this, you know, we really don't know. That's really all I've got in terms of who they lost.
Right.
And then,
I mean, I guess Luka Babbitt's no longer on this team.
Sure. They are.
We don't know if Udonis Haslem is coming back.
Right. So he's
probably coming back. I mean, I don't know of a world where Udonis Haslem's not on the Miami Heat.
Yeah, I really don't either. In terms of just who they get back, they don't really bring anyone in either. Like this is the same team essentially as last season, but with a small difference. They are going to get Dion Waiters for hopefully a full season. You know, maybe they get Dwayne Wade for a full season.
Maybe.
You know, Rodney Magruder was useful during his rookie season at the very least, and he only played 18 games last season. So, you know, there's actually some reason to believe that there's some positive stuff here.
I get where your head's at here. I'm out. I'm out on the Heat. Ultimately, this Hassan Whiteside thing is too toxic for my blood, and the fact that they don't have anyone coming in other than maybe Dion Waiters. I like that they kept Wayne Ellington. I am done waiting on Justice Winslow to turn into anything more than he currently is. I mean, I know 22 and a half is not very old, but he's been in the league now for a while.
Year 4 coming.
I needed to see more coming into this. I'm not betting on it coming this year. I do love Bam Adebayo, but like, I don't know how much of a role he's going to have on this team. There's just so many above average dudes. And on a lot of teams, that's a real positive. But for this Heat team, which constantly seems to be around 500, I'm taking the negative.
You think this is where it ends?
I just don't see a guy who's going to come in and sort of take this to the next level. And I ultimately think that this Whiteside situation can't end well.
I agree with that.
And it's certainly not going to end with him on the Miami Heat this year. I don't know what that circumstance is, but their roster will not be any better.
Yeah, the Hassan Whiteside contract, it's among the... It's not one of the worst, but it's a bad one.
No,
I mean, 2 years, 52.
It kind of made some sense in the moment. It's a mess, and ultimately, you know, I like Tyler Johnson. I like Josh Richardson. I like James Johnson. I like Goran Dragic. I like Wayne Ellington. I like Kelly Olynyk. I like Bam. I like a lot of guys on this team. I just don't like what they all build up to be. I don't like the sum of the parts when it comes down to it. This team reeks 500, and I see far more reasons to believe that they're under it than they are above it, even though they play in a crap division. Yeah, I'm under.
I'm going over.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. It can go any way. I mean, this is the preeminent 50-50 team.
And I think that what you're seeing with a lot of what I'm saying here, and you're going to see this again later on in this episode with Washington, you're going to see it with Milwaukee. I'm more bullish on the middle class in the East than I am the lower class in the East.
I get that.
I actually think that some of the middle class teams, that's why I think they're going to get to 40, 41, 42 wins.
Yeah.
To make the playoffs. So I actually like some of these teams. The Miami team, the thing is this group won 44 games last year. They had a very, very similar team. They won 41 the year before and got that great late start or great late end to the season. Yeah. So you look at what they've done over the course of their last 100, 110 or so games, and this has been a well above 500 team. And I like the positive growth that I think they're going to get from Josh Richardson, who is turning into a genuine, not two-way star, but he's becoming one of the best two-way players in the NBA.
He showed some positive offensive games last year.
Again, Dion Waiters for hopefully 50 more games, maybe even 40 more games. He will help their offense. This was a team that finished 22nd in offensive rating. He will help their offense at the very least. James Johnson will continue to be very, very good. And then you have Goran Dragic. Goran Dragic, for me, is still one of the more underrated point guards in the NBA. Because this Miami team has not been as prominent over the course of the last 2 years, I think that he hasn't gotten as much credit as he deserves.
That's fair. I agree to that. But if Goran Dragic goes down with injury, and we hope injury on no man, no woman, I don't like where this team stacks up. So much of this team is built around Goran Dragic being the team's best player. On a team with a lot of guys who are pretty damn good, he needs to be the best player on the team. They don't have a clear. I mean, I guess the clear-cut backup is Briante Weber. Is that possible? I mean, there's a lot of guys who can handle the ball.
Yeah, they'll play Tyler Johnson at some point. They'll play Dion at some point. They have guys that they can have handling the ball.
No, but it's not going to look the same. It's not going to feel the same. And I think Spo is a great coach, don't get me wrong, but I have a hard time seeing this team in particular, and maybe it's this ineffable thing, get over the hump again this year. Because every year it seems like they have to try their damnedest to get to 45 wins, and it has to be this whole thing. And I just don't think that they have the juice in it this year, and maybe that all stems from the bad vibes coming off the Whiteside thing, but that's where my head's at.
I totally understand that. If there's one thing that's going to tank it, I do think the Hassan Whiteside thing scares me.
I would personally stay away from the number, to be honest, because the fact that every point that you made is incredibly salient. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the other thing that I have with this too is if the Hassan Whiteside thing is what scares us most, Kelly Olynyk and Bam Adebayo is about as strong of a backup option as you're going to.
Yeah, no, you're pretty damn good.
Yeah, so I'm going over.
It's more of the Whiteside in the locker room. Whiteside taking away. I'm not a big guy about focus or whatever, but just messing stuff up. And the more I've been around teams like the Warriors, the more I realize that good vibes matter. And the Heat really like to present themselves, with this Pat Riley sort of disciplinarian aspect. The culture will win out. The culture doesn't seem to be working right now, and I'm wondering how that's going to manifest itself on the court. Maybe it has no bearing whatsoever, that it's strong enough and it will handle the Hassan Whiteside situation without issue. Maybe. And everything you said, again, I think stands for reason, but I don't err on that side for now.
So the weird thing about it as well is that it wouldn't be crazy to see a circumstance where Miami, if they would get such an offer, decided to blow this up at the trade deadline, just because it's not crazy to imagine them wanting to get involved during the 2019 summer.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so, they're going to be in a really tricky spot doing that at the moment.
And that's why I'm okay, I can see a world where this doesn't go over, but if this roster plays the full season together, I think it's a clear over.
Right now they have 6 guys who make more than $10 million. Dragic is making 18. Tyler Johnson's making 19.
Don't say the Whiteside number. 25.4.
James Johnson is making 14.6. Dion Waiters 11.5. Kelly Olynyk 11.1. That's not even factoring in Josh Richardson, who makes almost $10 million a year. This is a big, meaty middle of team that normally would lend itself. You would think, oh, this is a nice deep team. I don't feel necessarily that way about this squad.
Sure.
It's going to take a nice calibration. Obviously, Aaron Spoelstra has the ability to calibrate, but calibration's tricky, no matter how often you've done it. And I'm just betting against it. If I had to make a pick, I'm betting against it. Ultimately, though, it's a great number. Yeah,
it's reasonable. I'm going to go over. I probably won't bet on it, but I will.
I would not touch it.
Yeah. The Milwaukee Bucks, their over-under is 47. Interesting team.
To say the least.
Did not necessarily meet the expectations that were set for them last year. They won 44 games a season ago. Their expected win-loss was 40. They were expected to have a losing record.
Jesus Christ. I didn't know that.
They had a negative net rating. They were 9th in offensive rating, 19th in defensive rating. In terms of their losses, they lose... Who do they? They lose Jabari, obviously.
Shabazz Muhammad.
They lose Shabazz.
Jason Terry.
Yeah, they do lose Jet. That's right. And Jet was weirdly useful for them.
He played 16 minutes a game last year, which is maybe why they had a negative differential. I don't know. Throwing that out there.
I believe that they lost Tyler Zeller as well. Or did they keep Zeller?
Marshall Plumlee is the guy that lost.
Oh, sorry.
Same
the Plumlees thing. And Zellers. Oh, how...
Tyler Zeller's still on the team.
Oh, how wild they can get. They bring in Ersan Ilyasova. They bring in Brook Lopez. They bring in Pat Connaughton.
Giddy up.
I believe that's it. Dante DiVincenzo as well. But
yeah, Jalen Morris, Christian Wood. Those are two people who exist.
Yeah, Travis Trice and Brandon McCoy as well.
Hey, now.
So, I am saying over for this team.
Okay.
The reason I'm doing it is Mike Budenholzer is a much better coach than Joe Prunty. Good God.
That is a dramatic understatement.
Period. That's my statement. That's the only argument I need, Sean.
It's not really. You're not going to get a counter argument from me. This is not First Take. We're not going to be able to make this shit up. Mike Budenholzer's a very good coach. He was a very good hire.
Yeah.
He did not have good coaching last year or the year before that.
And another big thing here, too, is that this is a team that's really struggled to get competent play from the center position.
Fact.
Defensive rebounding rate, 29th in the NBA. Offensive rebounding rate, 26th in the NBA. This is a team that just
ladies and gentlemen, this is the part when Sam goes off about how much he loves Lopez brothers. And here we go.
Do love the Lopez brothers. And the reason that I love the Lopez brothers, and particularly Brook and Brook's fit on this team, is that the Bucks have a lot of guys that like to crash in from the wing and grab rebounds. Giannis loves to grab rebounds. Chris Middleton averaged 5 rebounds a night. Pretty good rebounder. You can kind of point to a few others on this team. Like you would hope that Malcolm Brogdon can up that number. Just given the fact that he's 6'6", has long arms, he's tough. He's
even Delly, man. Even Delly gets in there.
Delly jumps in. Eric Bledsoe's a good rebounder for a point guard. He averages 4 a night.
Dante DiVincenzo is going to get in there.
Yeah, we'll see how much he plays, but totally true. Ersan Ilyasova, really strong defender if they play together. Brook Lopez is one of the best guys at boxing out in the NBA.
There it is.
His team has had his team has consistently had a much better rebounding rate with him on the floor than off the floor. And it speaks to that. His numbers have been hit or miss over the years, and that's why this might look a little bit weird in terms of saying, oh yeah, Brook Lopez is going to change them as a defensive rebounding team. But I'm telling you, watch Brook Lopez box out. It's going to be good this year.
It's really quite tremendous.
And they're just going to get a lot more competent play from the center position. They're going to play Ersan in these super small ball units where they have him maybe guard the lesser of two evils in the front court, have Giannis guard the better one. They can insulate him with Middleton. They can insulate him with Tony Snell, who's a good defender despite the fact that he's a mess offensively. Sterling Brown's a pretty good defender. I talk about Cole Zwicker all the time. Malcolm Brogdon's a good defender. There's a lot of reason to buy into this team, just showing a lot of positive growth by having a competent situation around them.
I don't disagree with that. At the same time, I think a lot of this number is tied to Giannis making another leap. And I'm having a hard time seeing another big one the way that a lot of people, I think, are making it out to be, that he's going to be the clubhouse leader for MVP. I mean, this is the conversation that's happening.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that he's not going to be in that MVP conversation. I firmly believe that he will be. He is exceptional. He is a true superstar. I think that we are sort of reaching the peak Giannis era. It will get better. It's just not going to accelerate as fast as it once did. And this team, while, yes, they have made some improvements, coaching being key amongst them all, I don't get much of a vibe off of them that they're really any better than they were last year. I really don't. And the 44 wins last year, not the negative point differential and net differential, the 44 wins. I'm going to take the under just because I think that the Bucks always seem to be the team that would theoretically gain the most by like LeBron leaving, because they play in the same division.
Yep.
They've just been unbridled upside because of Giannis, who is the epitome of upside. I think that the upside is fading. I know he's 24, but I think that the upside is fading. I think we know what we're getting with Giannis.
I was going to say, does it matter though? Like we know what we're getting. We're getting like one of the five best players in the league.
Players in the NBA. Yeah, no, like that's not. I get it, but like. It just, when you see the chart, the way that it's gone the last couple of years, you just expect those kind of gains year in and year out. It's not going to continue to happen. I think this is the first year that we see Giannis, not make a meteoric rise. And while, yes, again, a lot of this roster is upgraded.
Yeah, I mean, he averaged 27, 10, and 5 last year with like 1.5 steals and 1.5 blocks a game. I don't know that he needs the meteoric rise.
I don't know if it's possible to have a meteoric rise. This is what I'm saying, but it seems like so much of this number is tied into that. I'm also just not an Eric Bledsoe guy.
Neither. That's fair. I'm not a big fan of his fit on this roster, to be honest.
Big time on that one. Whereas in Delhi doesn't have the same impact because he's not playing with LeBron James. Funny how that works out. Pat Connaughton, I think, will play a nice role on this team. Ersan Ilyasova will have a nice role on this team. I'm fascinated to see what Thon Maker can do. He shows these flashes.
Yeah, he's been so weird. He's a disaster in the regular season, and he's been super useful in the playoffs, like incredibly valuable. So,
and that's the style. That's the style of the playoffs. That's the style of the modern NBA. Maybe that lines up with Thon at some point. He's listed at 21.5. So, I mean, plenty of upside there, but. I just don't see. The other thing too is Boot is coming in. He's coming into a team that frankly hasn't been coached well. There's going to be some growing pains there. I can't imagine a world where Mike Budenholzer just is able to hit the ground running with this team. I think that there's going to be some struggles from the jump. If for nothing else, figuring out who's going to control the damn ball. If it's going to be Giannis or Bledsoe, or if you're going to have another playmaker on the court who's going to be doing all the dribbling. Like I think that they're going to start slow. I think that they will be right there in the middle of the Eastern Conference pack when it's all said and done. But I think that's around 44, 45 wins. And so I'm taking the under.
So I'm saying like 47, 48, 49. The number is 47. I'm staying away for the most. Like I'm not going to bet on this.
Yeah, that's probably the right call as opposed to the next team in which it's a very obvious right call.
Oh yeah, I've made my feelings known about the New York Knickerbockers on this roster.
Let me just read to you my notes. I wrote down,
Well, hold on. Let me
5-6 bullet points. Are we done with the Bucks?
We're done with the Bucks. Okay. Let me read my spiel here. 29 wins last year. Their over/under is 29.5 this year. 20th in offensive rating, 23rd in defensive rating. 32 expected wins last year.
I have no idea how that happened.
Yeah, a little bit weird. So they lose Michael Beasley. They lose half of a season of Kristaps Porzingis. Is obviously the biggest one.
Kind of a thing.
They lose half a season of Doug McDermott, who played 55 games and was competent.
Not a totally small thing.
They lose Kyle O'Quinn, who actually is
he's a good player,
valuable player. Who else do we have here? Anyone?
Enes Kanter was re-signed.
There,
yeah. Apparently, no. Jarrett Jack played for this team last year.
I forgot Jarrett Jack started 56 games for the Knicks.
Yeah.
You know
and
what?
Yet we're somehow expected to win 32 games.
Shout
Eastern
out.
Conference basketball, baby.
Shout out Jarrett Jack, man. That dude is 34 years old and swindled the Knicks out of $2 million last year.
Swindle God.
And, like, look, I mean, that's probably too negative. Like, Jarrett Jack has been a pro point guard for a long time, but
and he provides a lot of veteran leadership for teams, and clearly there's a role for that because Vince Carter still has a job.
Yeah, and like everyone loves Jarrett Jack around the NBA too. Like you find
one of those guys.
No one who will complain about Jarrett Jack in the NBA.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's like an NBA power broker.
Yes.
I mean, there are more than one different narrative stories about how Jarrett Jack connected Kevin Durant to the Warriors.
Yeah,
because Jack was a point guard in those early Steph Curry years, and then he was, he could be an agent if he wanted to. I don't think he wants to be, but I think he'd be a pretty good agent.
Additions to this Knicks team.
Let's hear them.
They do bring in Kevin Knox.
Good player.
Mario Azonia.
Okay.
Mitchell Robinson. Noah Vonleh. Like Alonzo Trier, who I love. I've been very strong about
your guy.
My Alonzo Trier feelings. I think he will play games for the Knicks this year and be valuable.
You know who they bring back?
Who do they
Joakim
bring?
Noah.
But the thing is, they apparently
They're
don't.
not. They're not going to. But he is technically on their roster.
Yes. So, I mean,
it's
under.
Yes, the under shall be hit with the utmost zeal.
I mean, like I said 3
they brought
weeks
in
ago.
Tisdale, who's a good coach.
Yeah, like I
said, can't save this team.
I said 3 weeks ago that I thought the Knicks would be in the bottom 3 in the NBA. I still believe
there's
that.
No evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, I think 29.5 is 4 wins too high for this number because there's no indication that Porzingis is going to play this year.
No, and even if he comes back, I mean, what is that worth?
What does it help the Knicks this year after they're 8-35 to bring back Kristaps Porzingis before they have to re-sign him in the offseason to a max contract?
Because you got to re-sign season ticket holders, baby.
Sure, but you're going to do that anyway when you re-sign him.
No, I get it. It's real rough, Sam. It's real rough on these streets. Yeah. I'll give you two topics for possible optimism. Frank Ntilikina showed a little something last year. Year 2.
On defense, he showed something.
Maybe this is the year that the offense shows something. Maybe he looks like he wasn't a completely terrible pick. I'm not saying he's a bust or anything, but obviously there's some stigma to his selection. And Emmanuel Mudiay is still on this team, and you know what? I'm just going to keep rooting for Emmanuel Mudiay to figure it out.
Me too. So that'd be fun.
That would be fun for me.
And
I'm sure it would be fun for Emmanuel Mudiay.
Not because I had him 3rd on my board in that draft. No.
I did not have such a board. I just like the notion of a big, meaty point guard in a game that is so fast. I like a dude who's just a bruiser and looks like one.
Yeah.
Also, he has cool shoes. He has Under Armour shoes. They're pretty nice.
This team just doesn't have enough talent.
No. So going back to my notes here, for most teams, I have 4 or 5 little just hash mark bullet point notes.
Atlanta's better than this team.
Yes.
Without Kristaps Porzingis.
Yes, and they might be with Kristaps. I mean, Kristaps is really good.
I definitely don't think that's true. Yeah, Kristaps is unbelievable. But without Kristaps,
my 4 notes
Atlanta
for this team were. My 4 notes for this team were, sorry, Fizz, but this roster sucks, written 4 times.
Oh, man. Enes
Kanter is not only on this team, he is starting and making $18.6 million.
But the thing is, too, with Enes, Enes is not only starting, he's going to have to play a lot.
Oh, yeah, he played 25 minutes last year. Count him for... I'll give you an over-under. Enes Kanter over 29.5 minutes per game.
If Porzingis doesn't play, I think I take the over, which is crazy. His backup is Mitchell Robinson, and Mitchell, God love him, I get the upside. He fouled at a prodigious rate in Summer League.
I think Lance Thomas is going to be his backup, which is not that much better.
Lance Thomas is a 3.
I know. Who's Luke Cornett? He apparently is on this team.
He is a 7-1 stretch 5. He does have a guarantee. He'll probably make the team. Noah Vonleh is back. Is the third backup. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay, but here's another argument here. Kevin Knox is on this team, and while I don't think Kevin Knox is they
won't play him at the 5.
Superstardom, he He could provide some interest. This might be the worst team in the NBA, as we alluded to a second ago. This legitimately might be the worst team in the NBA.
I'm not high on this team at all.
This team makes me really sad.
As much as I'm here for the Trey Burke-assance,
that's not happening.
I really think it might. Like I'm not joking. Like
Lord knows he'll get the
good.
opportunities to shoot.
Yeah, like I think he actually is like a legit NBA player. So
I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying is, I would almost prefer to see Lonzo Trier play serious minutes at the NBA level this year.
Maybe I think they'll get that anyway.
Wouldn't you prefer that just as like a long con? Like, let's just see if this guy has anything, because Lord knows he's got enough talent. Like, that's where we're at. We're talking about guys with two-way contracts. Might be better than guys with guaranteed deals.
Yeah.
Mario Hezonja's on this team. He's still here.
Mario will be fun.
Will he?
Sure.
I don't know, man. I watched Orlando Magic basketball. It's pretty soul-crushing.
It's pretty soul-crushing. Oh, my God. Yeah, like...
This might be the worst team in the NBA, but there's a couple other teams that give them a run for the money. Atlanta and our next team.
Yeah, I mean, so we're both on the under here, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Hit it so hard.
Yeah, like I'm just...
I would legitimately consider taking 23 and taking the under on that.
I think that would be the number where I would... I think 22.5 is the number where I would take the over.
Yeah, that's not good. That's
not
bad.
A good sign. Not a good sign.
That's bad.
The Orlando Magic, 31.5. So...
What? What?
Wait. Here, I will give you a pitch on this. I don't think that I'm like actually believing. What? I don't actually know that I believe this, but I will give you a pitch on it. So 25 wins last year, 28 expected win-loss. 25th in offensive rating, 18th in defensive rating.
Okay.
They bring in Mohamed Bamba. They bring in...
Yes. Jerian Grant.
Yes, that's right. They do bring
in Jarrell Martin.
Tim Mozgov. Melvin Frazier. I'm here for Melvin Frazier.
Justin Jackson.
They do bring in Justin Jackson, that's right. Brian Angola Rodas, I believe, is on a 50K.
Oh man, he's not even on this list. They lose Mo Spates, so I'm not sure how they're supposed to win this year.
Isaiah Briscoe, they have him on a basic, at least a half guarantee, I think, which is he was playing in Estonia last year.
I'm not lying. I'm looking at a pretty deep roster here on Roster Resource, and you just named two dudes who aren't on it, and they've had everybody. I have named some obscure dudes today. This team bad.
So they lose Mario Hezonja, who hilariously averaged 10 points in 75 games last year. They lose Bismack Biyombo.
Okay.
Yeah,
they got off that deal. What a sign! What will you remember most from the Bismack Biyombo era of the Orlando Magic?
It's a good question. I actually
nothing. You'll remember nothing because the Orlando Magic are eminently forgettable.
I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't do a moment of silence for the Timofey Mozgov Charlotte era.
Oh, just play Sarah McLachlan's "I Will Remember You" in the background.
Yeah, but
yeah,
Tim Mozgov might actually play. For the nah, probably not.
Who the hell's? I mean,
he's drafted.
Vucevic is still on the team.
Vucevic, yeah. So and they have Ken Birch. He's competent, somewhat.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So look, the Orlando Magic. There's talent here. They have Bamba. They have Gordon. They have Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Simmons exists.
He's a person.
He's a competent NBA player.
They still have Evan Fournier.
Evan Fournier is fine. They don't really have a point guard that I have faith in.
Let's just take a second here to recognize the point guard depth chart for the Orlando Magic. Number 1 on the depth chart, DJ Augustine. Okay, that's not a good situation to be in, but at least we all know that DJ Augustine can, play point guard in the NBA. Number 2 on the depth chart is Jerian Grant. Number 3 on the depth chart is to be determined. This is bad. This is very, very bad.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of this.
Are they going to have Terrence Ross play point guard?
No, that's...
I know. That's where we're at.
Again, Isaiah Briscoe was in Estonia last year. I would rather have Isaiah Briscoe playing point guard.
How is the Estonian league?
I honestly can't even begin. And this comes from someone who knows way too much about European basketball.
Yeah, you'd be the first person I would ask. Who would you ask about the Estonian League? If I made a call to you and said, I need information on the Estonian League
I would ask
in 20
Sam
minutes,
Yeah.
who would you ask?
Sam Meyerkopf. He's the guy who he's a Hoop Like Drazen. He's a scouting service in Europe.
Okay.
So that's who I would ask. But
okay, I'm fascinated to find out on a later edition of the pod what's going on in Estonia. And is it better than the Lithuanian second division?
Yeah, I got nothing there.
These are the questions I need to ask. Will a Ball brother be on the Orlando Magic?
Yeah, no. And I mean, like, look, we're like overlooking Jaren Grant, who is like somewhat established as an NBA player. I mean, look, he averaged like 8 and 5 last year, and as a backup
for the Bulls.
Yeah, like as a backup point guard, though, I think you can do worse. But like,
yeah, but not when your starting one is a definitively backup point guard.
Yeah, that's true. It's not great. It's not great.
Those are your two options. This is very Bullsy.
Yeah, I just don't know where they get the offense from. I don't know where they get the spacing from. I don't know where they get the creation from. Look, like
Aaron Gordon's good, I guess.
I do think there's something to be said for Steve Clifford and his defensive scheme matching up really well with this.
Is he worth
roster.
6 wins?
I don't think so.
No, he's not worth 6 wins. Are you kidding me?
But having
is
like
Mo
Mohamed
Bamba worth 3 wins?
Having Mohamed Bamba inside, having Nikola Vucevic be able to slink back defensively, and having really athletic wing defenders like, Melvin Frazier, I think is going to be valuable for this roster. Terrence Ross can at least be athletic enough to switch. He's not a good defender, but like that exists. Jonathan Isaac is a very good defensive player already. Jonathan Simmons can switch defensively and do a lot of different stuff. Like their scheme matches their coach, and their roster matches the scheme on defense. I just don't think they're going to get enough offense.
Who leads this team in scoring other than Aaron Gordon, and how many points per game do they average?
How long is Nick Vucevic there? Do we think if Nick Vucevic finishes the season there, or if he gets to like 50 games played, it's Nick Vucevic, I think, and then Evan Fournier. Like those are the three.
Like who the hell could they even sell him to at this point?
He's on expiring now. I think that there's probably a couple teams out there that'd be like, okay, he might help us win games at the end of the season to like make a playoff push.
Name one team where that just makes logical sense.
Okay.
I don't have a name in the back of my head, so there's no wrong answer here, or maybe there is. We'll find out.
Could you say the 76ers if they need a backup center?
Maybe. Okay.
They got Mike Muscala, but I
like Mike Muscala.
Vucevic is a level above though.
Agreed.
Could you say? Oh man.
If the year was 2007, Vucevic would be a great player.
Like if the Dwight Howard thing goes disastrously, Washington.
Oh man, if the Dwight Howard thing goes disastrously,
it's going to be fun for everyone
all bets
involved.
Are off.
But like,
I can't wait to get to that one.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun with that one. But look, I'm going under. I just don't think they get enough offense. I think we're on the same page here. I don't think it's hard under. I don't know that I'll bet on it, but I think I'm going under.
This team won 25 games last year, and they got worse.
Yeah, that's true. Philadelphia 76ers, they were
an interesting one.
52. Their over-under is 54.5 this year. They won 52 games last year. They had an expected win-loss of 53, so right in line. Offensive rating 12th, defensive rating 4th. Mm-hmm. They lose Marco Bellinelli and Ersan Ilyasova.
Not totally insignificant, but at the same time, not totally key guys either.
They lose Rashawn Holmes and Timothé Luwawu.
Insignificant.
Justin Anderson.
Also insignificant.
Shout out to those 2 games that Jahlil Okafor played at the start of the year last year.
Legend. Then he failed the physical or something, right?
They traded him.
Yeah. It's a
That's
thing.
all they lose, though, I believe, right?
That's what I'm seeing here.
They bring in
Demetrius Jackson. Played 15 games for them.
They bring in Wilson Chandler, Mike Muscala, maybe Zaire Smith.
Yeah, we'll find out with that.
Depending on the Jones fracture. Landry Shamet,
mm-hmm.
Jonah Bolden.
Yes.
Shout out my guy Norvell Pell.
Okay.
Shake Milton.
Yeah.
And then the big one that I'm going to point out, at least, is Markelle Fultz. Like they're
I would argue that they're getting him. Yeah.
So overall, I think that there is, again, reason for both optimism and concern here. I think that the number is right to the point where I will not bet on it.
Yeah. This is a hard push and a run away from this line. If I had to lean in a direction, I would lean under, barely, just because.
I think I agree, but again, I'm staying away. I just don't. I don't have a great feel.
If you're on this podcast for actual betting advice, one, what the hell are you doing? And two, stay as far away from this line as possible because it is spot on. They will somehow find a way to win 54 and a half games this year. They are going to be right on the number one way or another. If it's over, it's 55. If it's under, it's 54. Now, the Fultz situation could mess this up in a big way because if he is the player that we thought he was coming out of Washington, it, one, creates a very different dynamic for the starting lineup of this team, and two, puts them in a level I wouldn't say necessarily directly with the Celtics because I'm very bullish on the Celtics, but they are certainly the top worthy adversary, in my opinion, going into the season. That changes up a lot of things, but we don't have any idea. There's so much weird around this team, and when there's that much weird going on around a team and the number seems right, I usually err to the side of caution and take the under.
You throw caution to the wind.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable. This is still a very young roster.
For sure.
I think it's asking a lot to say that this team wins 55.
That's a big number, even in the Eastern Conference where, LeBron's gone.
It's a very big number. The big question is, can you trust Joel Embiid to play as many games, 63, as he did last year?
The $25 million question every year.
Right. And if he doesn't, this number goes way under.
Big time.
But here's the thing. I think you get, this should come as no surprise to people because Ben Simmons obviously finished very highly on our top players under 23 years old.
Yep.
But I think he's going to take a huge leap. I really.
Really? I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum.
I think he goes to 28 and 9.
Wow.
I think he is.
Okay, that's interesting.
Genuine,
I want to hear that out.
All NBA player next year, plus still continues to play unbelievable defense.
No question, this dude is as explosive as they come in the league. His physical tools are unrivaled. I get it. But man, that dude can't shoot. And all he needs is a semblance of a jump shot, and it's over. But I feel like there's going to be stasis year over year. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I'm just not sure it matters. Because,
that's a valid argument.
He's going to figure out how to play. He had a 19.5 turnover rate last year. I bet that number drops considerably.
What happens if he's not the guy? It's going to probably drop just because he probably won't be handling the ball as much. But what happens if he's playing off the ball? Because a lot of the offense that he created was just more or less bully iso ball and just taking control of stuff. I know he can play off the ball, and that's probably where he's best suited. But if Fultz is back and Fultz is something,
I would play Fultz off the ball.
Interesting. Very interesting, because it's not like his jump shot's great either right now.
Yeah, we don't have a lot.
We have no idea.
Yeah, we don't have he was great at Washington. He was unplayable last year because of the jump shot. So yeah, I don't know I don't really know where to go with that one.
Here are positives. Here are some positives. One, Markelle Fultz could be the real deal. He could be totally awesome. Two, they have a great coach in Brett Brown. Simmons could absolutely make the leap that you alluded to. I'm not there, but that might be recency bias from that playoff performance. JJ Redick is still there. He is still good. Robert Covington is one of the best defenders in the NBA, even though I don't necessarily agree with him being first team all defense last year. He certainly was worthy of the consideration and the voting. Dario Saric still has some room. He's 24 and a half. I like Dario Saric.
Big on the Dario train.
And Joel Embiid has, just like Ben Simmons, but he's probably just a step or two past him in the progression realm. Joel Embiid has MVP potential, straight up. So there's so much to like about this team. There's also just kind of strange vibes around them. And that certainly didn't get helped in any way this summer with the Brian Colangelo situation. So I know that that's tangential, but
the 76ers might have a general manager by the time that this gets released.
Right.
They certainly don't by the time it was recorded.
Right. I think that the Colangelo situation, with the Fultz situation, with some of the stuff that was going on, leaking out before it, there's a weird culture going on over there. And maybe that's not a problem. Maybe this is just over reading things and Joel Embiid's, big personality sort of being overanalyzed. So man, I don't know. I can't tell you for sure one way or another. And with a number that's spot on, again, caution to the wind.
So you're going under.
I'm going under. Though I think we're both in cahoots that our advice is run away from this.
Yeah.
Do not come even close to it with your money.
I think it's basically right at the number. I will say 54 and say under, but I think it's right at the number. Yeah. Brian Colangelo lost his job, but luckily he has not yet lost his hair. 66% of men, though, lose their hair by the age of 35. Thing is, though, when you start to notice hair loss, it is too late. If that hairline is slowly starting to move backwards, just like Brian Colangelo's collar slowly started to move upwards.
Find a new slant.
How are you going to feel a year from now if it's not business as usual up there? The solution for you is forhims.com, a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, sexual wellness. It's all for men.
This is a normal collar.
You don't want to be the Colangelo of your party. You want to find any way you can to look your best. You don't want to have to take out 5 burner accounts so that you can defend your hairline. Okay? Defend it with Hims. Just get ahead of it. That way you don't have to use social media burner accounts. Thanks to science, baldness can be optional. Hims connects you with real doctors and medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss. These are well-known generic equivalents to name-brand prescriptions to help you keep your hair. There's no waiting room. There's no awkward doctor visits. There's no one telling you to find a new slant. You save hours by going to forhims.com. It is so easy. This is what I've got for you. If you order now, my listeners are going to get a trial month of Hims for just $5 right now while supplies last. See that website for details. This would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy. Go to forhims.com/game theory. That's forhims, forhims.com/game theory, forhims.com/game theory. We got 2 left. 2 playoff teams, in my opinion. The Toronto Raptors. 55 is the number. And I
like the over. I like it.
I understand why you would like it. Let me run through
please.
My little spiel. 59 wins a season ago. They were expected to win 60, so right in line. 2nd best offensive rating, 5th best defensive rating. They lose DeMar DeRozan, obviously. They lose...
That was a thing.
Yeah, that was absolutely a thing that happened. They lose Jakob Poeltl as well.
Yep.
I believe that Bebe is no longer on that roster.
Yeah, Bebe appears to be an unrestricted free agent who has yet to be signed.
And then
is Malcolm Miller.
They also lose Bruno Caboclo. But they traded Bruno mid-year, didn't they? Yeah, they traded Malachi Richardson, who is on that roster.
Yeah.
They gain Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard.
Oh.
A flying helicopter over my head.
Yeah, they found out about him, and they're trying to get in on the deal.
Greg
also
Monroe.
got Greg Monroe.
So,
and Chris Boucher, perhaps.
We'll see.
I like Chris Boucher. He's a lanky dude.
He is very skinny.
Yeah, we talked a couple times. He was on a 2-way deal with the Warriors last year, and nice kid. Wishing the best for him.
Yeah, we want him to get healthy.
For sure.
Where are we at? This is a totally different team. I don't know that next year's or last year's numbers matter. They obviously have a new coach,
Agreed.
Nick Nurse, for Dwayne Casey. But again, Nick Nurse was there last year. They're going to be running the same offense for the most part, I would imagine.
More or less, yeah.
Even with Kawhi there. My inclination is to go under until we know what Kawhi looks like. But
valid.
To me, that's just the better bet. But I understand why there's reason for excitement in Toronto. And I, again, still believe that this was the right decision. It's going to make them a better team in the playoffs, unquestionably. But
Agreed.
In terms of the regular season, I think that it's going to take some time. And I think that we just don't know enough about Kawhi to really have a great feel.
Totally agree with that. I'm all in on the over. Just because I think this is going to be Kyle Lowry's team again. And obviously, there was always a bit of friction between DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. Not personally; those guys, big fans of each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, I find that one. This is going to be a take. I need you to continue here.
No, I just feel like their styles never fully jived. That there was always some friction, in terms of how to best score the basket. And I appreciated...
Well, I think it's reasonable to note that lineups with Kyle, with the bench unit, typically did perform better than lineups with Kyle and DeMar.
Yeah, and it's really of no fault of their own. I appreciate what DeMar DeRozan did to sort of evolve his game, but ultimately, the dude has the nickname Costco Kobe for a reason. And they were never going to get over the hump with that tandem, period. I firmly believe that. Beyond that, they had the boogeyman in LeBron, and he was cottaging in the space between their ears. That is what it is. What I love about this team is I think the Danny Green pickup is sneaky good. I don't, feel great about the Serge Ibaka, Jonas Valanciunas pairing, but I love this bench, and I love the upside of OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam. I love the upside of those guys. Mm-hmm. I think they can take big jumps. They were already damn good last year. You add in a MVP candidate caliber player in Kawhi Leonard if he's healthy, and who the hell knows? But at some point, you got to think he's going to be healthy. I just like this team, especially with Nick Nurse out there. Something to prove again. I like this team to go out there and just lay the wood on some squads. And prove that they didn't, have their window closed last year, and this is not just a 1-year strange experiment to keep Kawhi. They're all in on Kawhi. They want to keep Kawhi, and I think they're going to go out and put together one hell of an argument to keep him around. And I haven't mentioned Fred VanVleet. He's awesome, and I love watching him play. And this bench might be as good as any in the NBA.
Yep.
And it has so much upside again. I just really, I'm in. I'm in on it. I understand all of the reasons to be skeptical. Frankly, I probably should be on that side of the argument, but I just appreciate the bold endeavor that was this offseason by the Toronto Raptors, and I want to reward it by throwing away money.
So, totally reasonable. I'm just a little bit more worried about the changing. I would imagine they're going to change their defensive scheme to account for Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard being more switchable, whereas DeMar was much less so. And Jakob Poeltl obviously was not.
Which creates problems for Valanciunas for sure.
Yeah, he's not a switchable defender.
Nor is Greg Monroe. I don't get that signing, to be honest with you.
It was a strange signing because they already had, guys who can play backup center as well. Like you can toss Serge at the backup center, and I would imagine they're going to close with Serge at the backup center. You can toss Pascal as a backup center, who, by the way, Pascal Siakam was draining threes at the UCLA run whenever I saw him back in LA.
Dude, he is going to be. He's on that level where the basketball guys, the guys who watch him every night, they know him, they like him a lot. He's got a hipster cred to him. He's going to lose all of it. He's going to go mainstream this year. That's my prediction for Pascal.
He might. I mean, I think he's still a role player, but he's a useful basketball player for sure in a way that not enough people know his name, I think is fair. Same with OG Anunoby, obviously a very
love OG.
Very high upside player. Again,
don't know what the Spurs were thinking and not asking him to be part of it.
Gives them all sorts of switchability, which is very valuable. I just don't know if it all comes together for 55. That's a high number. That's a very, very high number. And if I've Philadelphia at 54, I think Philadelphia wins more games than they do just due to continuity.
Okay.
I am going to say Toronto wins 50 plus. I think they win 51, 52, 53. I'm going to take under 55. But again, this is a really good team, and I think they're going to be better in the playoffs.
Ultimately, I was asked earlier today who I think the Warriors are playing in the finals, and we go into Boston or Philadelphia, and my gut reaction was Toronto. And you got to go with your gut sometimes.
One place we probably don't want to go with our gut. Well, a better way to segue here.
because nothing good is going to come of that analogy.
Well, the better way to go here is Dwight Howard often goes too far with his gut, with many of his jokes. So let's talk about the Washington Wizards.
Oh, can we? Can we finally?
I know how excited you are to discuss the Washington Wizards. The Washington Wizards, their number is 44.5. They won 43 games last year. Their expected win-loss last year was 43. Offensive rating 14th, defensive rating 15th. Bring in Dwight Howard, as we mentioned. Bring in Troy Brown as a rookie. Jeff Green was a minimum signing that I actually kind of liked. They brought in Thomas Bryant as a backup center, who, again, another guy, looked really good at the UCLA run.
Did anyone look bad at the UCLA run?
It's a fair question. Yes, there were people that looked bad at the UCLA run. I will not name them.
Shoot me a text a little bit later.
Austin Rivers is also on this roster now in a trade for Marcin Gortat, who they have gotten rid of. Tim Frazier, I believe, is no longer on this roster. Mike Scott is no longer on this roster.
Ramon Sessions is gone.
Ty
Lawson was technically on this team.
Oh, yes. Yes, he was. It was quite a time to be alive.
It was a mellow Hawk situation, but 10 times more illustrious.
Yeah. And Jody Meeks still exists on this roster as well.
On the roster, yeah. You know who else is on this roster? Somehow, some way, despite the fact that they've been trying to trade the contract since they signed it, Jan Mahimi, baby. He won out.
Oh, man. He might have to play real minutes. They won 43 games last year, only getting a half season from John Wall. I'm going over with this team despite the fact that every single fiber in my being says to say under. Every single, intelligent thought says this is going to blow up. This is going to just blow up in everyone's face. We know it. It's going to be a disaster. Dwight Howard is playing on this team. John Wall's photo at USA Basketball was
woof.
A little bit scary.
Rough, man.
Still going over. I just think that getting a full season of John Wall, getting what I hope will be equal level with Marcin Gortat at center with Dwight Howard. We can talk about...
That's fair enough. That's not... Yeah, we don't need to get into that too much. That is a fair argument.
We can talk about Dwight Howard being a mess, but my guess is that he's probably about equal with Marcin Gortat. Honestly, the upside is greater. He did average 17 and 12 last year.
And he won't be creating... Oh, no, wait. That both create problems in the locker
room. Austin Rivers will provide them with backup punch off the bench.
Yes.
This is just a powder keg.
Okay, let me. I gotta talk.
Valuable.
I gotta get in.
What am I doing? What am I doing with this?
Why are you? I understand. It is actually logical. I think that this line is being deflated by the fact that this team is such a powder keg. But here's why they're a powder keg. I just had to put it into words for myself. I love both Bradley Beal and Otto Porter. I think they are both solid, professional guys that I think any team would be smart to want on their roster. Every single other player on this team, it sure seems, is completely delusional. We were talking about the Cavs and the Bulls, about how, they might be so delusional into thinking that they can actually make the playoffs, that they're going to overachieve this year based on their over-unders. This is the opposite side of that delusion. This is hubris. This is John Wall, Dwight Howard, Kelly Oubre, Austin Rivers, Jeff Green, who's a nice guy, but still a delusional player on the court. All of those guys playing together with the expectation that they are going to win the Eastern Conference this year.
Sorry, did you mention Markieff Morris?
Markieff Morris is a known entity, and despite the fact that he went to Kansas, I don't slander the Morris twins because at least they play a modern game. But yeah. No, you're right. He's right online. He's kind of a different level of crazy, though.
No, I mean, let's not call him crazy. He's crazy is a bad word.
I'm not in the pejorative sense. I'm saying in the sense of
he sometimes does not know the limits of his game.
There it is, and that is the MO of this team. This is the team that talks the most trash while accomplishing the absolute least. They are so far into their own heads on everything that I don't know if they have a chance to get out. And then they added Dwight Howard, who, again, probably gets a worse rap than he deserves, but still deserves a significant amount of rap. I have no faith whatsoever that Scott Brooks survives this season. I have no faith whatsoever that this team can get out of its own way and actually win 44, 45, 46 games just to be mediocre in the Eastern Conference. I feel bad for Bradley Beal and Otto Porter every day because they frankly deserve better. This situation, as you said earlier, is a powder keg, and I am very much looking forward to the moment the season starts and 5 guys light a match almost immediately.
That's fair.
But Jan Mahimi is going to finally get some playing time.
I just don't. I mean, he played 77 games last year. Let's put some respect on Jan's name.
I know. They were all begrudging minutes. I mean, that's the state of this franchise. They just play. They had to play. Like, it's such a mess. I mean, I'd be interested. This is going to be a good season for one regard, other than entertainment. We're going to find out if John Wall's the absolute real deal or not, or if he's just a guy who thinks that he's better than he is. There's no question he's got a lot of talent. There's no question that he's, a starting point guard in the NBA and all that stuff. He is certainly of a level that's well established.
He was all NBA in 2017. Like, John Wall's amazing.
I mean, obviously compared to like DJ Augustine, he's amazing.
Like even compared to like Eric Bledsoe, he's amazing.
Yeah, well, we both know I'm out on Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah, but like Bledsoe is a average starting point guard. Like Jeff Teague.
I'm not arguing that John Wall is average. I'm not arguing that at all.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is he's not as high on the list as he thinks he is, clearly, because I think he thinks he's the best point guard in the NBA.
I was gonna say, that's a good question. Where would we put John Wall on the point guard list?
Would you put him? I mean, I would not have him above Kemba, and Kemba is like a divisive player.
I probably would.
And I get that. I think that's the consensus for a lot of people. But like where John Wall fits in this overarching thing, I think we're going to have a lot more clarity on that at the end of this year. And I don't think it's going to work out well for him.
Like I would have him over Drew Holiday. I would have him over Mike Conley.
Conley's close.
Like
totally disagree with Drew Holiday though.
Drew Holiday's amazing. Like I ride hard for Drew Holiday, but John Wall's really good. Like I would have him under Damian Lillard.
John Wall's really talented.
I'd have him under Kyrie probably.
Yeah.
Just given age, I'd probably have him over Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, no, okay, that's fair. That's fair, but that's an age thing. Also, it's not as if, and this is the thing. It's this ineffable quality of being a winner, right? And it's such a sports talk radio cliche nonsense term, but there is something to it. I swear I didn't want to believe it, but I do. And you see it in some guys, and not everyone has to have it. It's not this thing that is very binary and whatever, but like John Wall is kind of on the other side of that argument, man. And
I mean, look, like they won 49 games in 2017.
Have they ever overachieved?
2017, man, like I again would go back to that and say like, hey, they were better than they should have been that year, I thought. Like they almost won 50 games. They won a playoff series. Like that was not a top 8 team in the NBA. Based off of talent, I didn't think.
Not top 8 team in the NBA, or
yes,
yeah, but that's the Eastern Conference for you.
No, but like they won a playoff series. Like they were one of
who do they play in that playoff series?
Atlanta.
Yeah, I get it. I know it's a totally different Atlanta team. I totally understand
Atlanta
that.
Team.
But come on.
Yeah, okay.
Come on. Listen, if you put a gun to my head and you said you got to make a bet on this, I would probably actually err with you. And I would say I would take the over, just because there are so many wins to be had. There are so many wins to be had, and this team is unquestionably talented. Unquestionably talented. Their ceiling is very, very high. I have zero faith whatsoever that they will ever reach their ceiling. I have no faith that Scott Brooks makes it through the end of this year. Even if it's not a giant explosion, there's going to be so much small crap that happens throughout the year to dissuade me from ever buying into what the Washington Wizards are selling, that by the end of it, I'm going to be so completely out that I might as well just get it over with now and say I'm out.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm betting on the talent. I'm here to bet on the talent. So basically, I'm going over, you're going under on 44.5, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I'm going over on unnecessary storylines and forced rivalries.
So I've got 8 overs in this thing. I've got Charlotte, I've got Cleveland, I've got Detroit, I've got Indiana, Miami, Milwaukee, and Washington. So no, I'm sorry, I have 7 overs, not 8. Basically what you see with me is, as I said, kind of throughout this, but I believe in the middle class of the East a little bit more than what I think most people do. Do you have any kind of overriding thoughts on yours?
Yeah, I mean, I have 8-8. The Hawks, Boston, Charlotte, Chicago, Cleveland, I guess Detroit, and Indiana, and then finally the Raptors as an over. Everybody else is an under. My big overarching takeaway is that there's not that much separation, save for Boston, Philadelphia, and Toronto. And Toronto and Philadelphia, I think, are closer to the pack than maybe the outside perspective presumes right now.
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of teams that are going to be around 500, and there's going to be a pretty wide range of talent between those teams, but ultimately the East is going to cannibalize itself to a certain degree. Big takeaway, I think the Southeast Division might not have an above 500 winner.
I will say it does. I will say there are.
That's a very fair statement.
Yeah.
My bold proclamation is that someone wins that division with 40 wins.
I'm here for that.
Yeah, and it could be Charlotte, it could be Washington, or it could be Miami. I'm not sure which one it is. Ultimately, I think that the big takeaway from this is because there are so many wins to be had, I'm bullish on the teams that most people would presume are going to be lower. Bullish on the Cavs, bullish on the Bulls, bullish on the Hawks. But I think the big takeaway is that Boston is far and away the best team in this conference going into this season. Not only do I think they have the highest floor, I think that their ceiling is higher than anybody else's. And I think that bears out, and it's going to be pretty obvious who the best team in the Eastern Conference going into the playoffs is. Totally different ballgame once the playoffs start, but this is Boston's show now.
Yeah, tiers-wise, I'd probably go Boston in a tier by itself, and then I would have Philadelphia, Toronto, and Indiana as that next group. Yeah, I would put Indiana in that group, actually.
Okay.
I would then have Milwaukee. I would have Washington as your kind of 5 and 6 teams that I feel pretty good about making the playoffs.
Okay.
And then it's kind of a mess. I'd probably say my next two are Detroit and Charlotte. No, I'd have Miami. I'd have Miami there. And then I'd have Detroit and Charlotte battling.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the tiers are Boston 1, Toronto and Philadelphia 2. I almost feel like the Pacers are in a tier by themselves. I feel like the Bucks are in a tier by themselves. The Wizards are somewhat in a tier by themselves. I know it's pretty tight grouping and all, and then there's just a big old group. And then there are two teams, at the bottom, I think in Orlando, or I guess 3, Atlanta, Orlando, and the Knicks that are at the bottom. But this is a mess. It is really incredible now that I think we're kind of looking at the Eastern Conference for the first time with clear eyes.
Yeah.
And what's been going on. I know there's been a lot of changes and stuff, but now that LeBron is gone and there's not a presumed champion, and you're not just kind of figuring out, who might give him a run, and win totals don't matter. Now that there's real competition, even though it's lower level competition, holy crap, this is not good. And I hope that teams like the Pacers, teams like the Heat, teams like perhaps the Wizards or the Bucks can make a leap up and bring some respectability to at least the top end, because we know we're going to have 3 good teams at the least, and maybe Indiana is in that class. But it's really on that meaty middle that you're bullish on to take a step forward just for the dignity of the Eastern Conference, because right now there's not a lot of dignity on it.
My hot take that I think no one really feels right now is that I think a team with 40 wins gets left out of the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Wow. Okay, that is aggressive.
Yeah,
I like it though. I like where your head's at.
It's a strong one, but I like Charlotte enough, and I think Detroit's right there. So,
yeah. Here's my if I have to do a hot take, I think that the Bucks are fighting for a playoff spot late in the year.
I mean, they were this year.
I know, but I think that there's just the general presumption that they're going to progress, and I don't necessarily see it.
Yeah, no, it's reasonable. I'm here for it. Dieter, tell the people where they can find your work.
As far away from Dwight Howard and the Washington Wizards as possible, I'm with the San Jose Mercury News. It's football season. It's baseball season. Basketball season's coming up. By the time you listen to it, it'll be even closer than by the time we're recording this. But you can catch all my stuff there. And my Twitter handle at @DKurtenbach, DKURTENBACH.
You know what John Gruden's going to need this year? He's going to need to have a short memory, much like Urban Meyer did, apparently, in many of these moments.
Urban Meyer was almost out of coaching for 10 years too there.
10 months. Yeah, go subscribe to The Athletic. Keep me employed. That'd be great.
Urban Meyer and John Gruden, former ESPN employees.
Now making a lot of money coaching football. Oh, boy.
What a country.
What a country. What a time to be alive. Go keep listening to this podcast. Go rate, review, and subscribe it on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Android, whatever podcasting app you use. I really appreciate you guys listening. We'll be back later next week, I guess, this stage, with the Western Conference NBA over-unders with Dieter.
It's so much better. I promise it's going to be so much better. You can make it, guys. You can make it.
I'm not terribly low on the East, man. Don't put that.
You're wrong, but that's okay.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Listen, the West is going to be significantly better. A lot better basketball. I think a lot better competition. We're not going to have to be parsing for 500 teams. So
yeah, I mean, like this
upgrade.
The West will not necessarily be a race for RJ and Zion.
Oh man, we got to talk about Zion a little bit on the next pod.
We can do that because I enjoy my beefy boy.
It's always better when you. It's weird when you type it. It sounded really weird over the air. You might want to cut that out.
Just go follow Dieter on Twitter. He needs more followers.
No, I don't. You don't want this. No one wants this.
No
one wants this big beefy boy's hot take.
Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.